As an artist, I'm really curious about places where people have been, in abandoned places, derelict places, so that there's a story to tell. There's a narrative about the history in terms of people and of nature in terms of the way nature grows and reclaims places where people are no longer there. So it's a place in flux, a place that's changing, and a place that's got meaning to the local community as well, who are perhaps a little divorced from it. And so I get the opportunity to reintroduce people to this location as well. And just letting a place speak to me, I find interesting. Sometimes when there are no people there at all, sometimes when people are there in addition to myself. But that's kind of what excites me, I think, and it goes back to childhood probably, when I was very young and I used to love exploring derelict buildings. And perhaps that's what's drawn me also to this community and space. Everything in our society today, in our urban lives, is incredibly fast, fast food, short attention spans. Everything is geared toward getting things quickly. You don't hear complicated narratives. People think, we're going to get bored. And so I kind of look at it in the opposite way. I just think I like to spend time somewhere and you get greater depth. So I'm not interested in speed, I'm interested in depth of connection. And if you slow down and really look, you've got time to sink deeper. When I was invited to come here, I felt I was working with kindred spirits who would really understand my work because I understood their ethos. Slow living, tuning in with the pattern of nature is really important and always has been in my work. So living in the egg, I live without electricity, off-grid, and so in winter I go to bed. When I lived in the egg, would go to bed at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon and wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning, and in summer I wake up at 4:30 in the morning and go to bed at 10:30 at night. So it's just a very natural way of working and living. I collect a lot of materials from plants growing around the egg, and I make ink for drawing with and dye for dyeing clothing, but the ink for drawing is also for writing. I make pens out of goose feathers that come drifting by and pick them up. The geese kindly donate them when they fall from their bodies. So it's very traditional. I make a quill for writing with an ink made from oak, and it's a perfect contrast to writing an email. There's a lot of communities wherever you are, and I'm quite interested in how there's an interaction, and I don't really always mean communities of people. Because nature is a sort of web, a warp and weft of different connections, and we tend to see people separate to the rest of it. So one connection I've been trying to make is a connection between insects and people, between the birds and people, between the trees, the flora and to people, and that's kind of part of the egg being here in this place. What makes a community? What makes a neighbourhood in that sense? The egg is my house, it's my home. Lots of creatures make their home at Finsley Gate. They hide under the stones and they live under leaves, but they also live in the houses round about. And so I guess people come and join me for a cup of tea in the egg, and we just talk about their lives and their experience of places. I think being in the egg, talking like that, just encourages people to dream a little bit about also what kind of home, what kind of life they'd like in the future as well. The joy for me is in understanding the beauty of the commonplace and the ordinary, and how special the everyday is. And so every day the sun comes up and people come in and I talk to people or I see something. It's just an accumulation of experiences which is enriching. You don't have to have rare and special moments to feel good. I think that's kind of where I'm coming from. In terms of memorable things, I guess there are lots, and there are sad things. Like there was a little girl came into the egg. She was sat just sort of staring at the egg, and I said, well, what do you think? And she said, it's cool. It's really cool, but it's not for me, is it? And so I said, well, what do you mean? Well, it's not for poor people. It was kind of heartrending, really, that someone so young should have accepted so much of the future sort of pre-written. I think all you can say to anyone is to just be as ambitious as possible for yourself and your future, and not to accept anything anyone tells you as sort of your destiny, and just go and be yourself and be strong. And anybody can do anything if you have the will to do it, and the interest in what's around you and an enjoyment in living. And I think it's just about trying to get a deeper understanding of place through engagement with it. And I'm not sure what art is at the end of the day, to tell the truth. And sometimes when people ask, I've in the past described myself as an archaeologist, I've sometimes been a geologist. I'm just a person interested in what makes a place tick. And art's a kind of byproduct that happens out of it, that I can identify later. So I can describe myself to people as the caretaker of Finsley Gate. And I think that's how people see me. They don't see me as an artist, they see me as a kind of person who's responsible for what's happening here. Art creeps in around the edges, I think.